marathon training and begins to taper, okay, where she decreases mileage each week, okay. On the first week of taper, she runs 65 miles total. On the 5th week of taper, she runs 31 miles. So she's decreased over the 6 weeks, where she was running 65 miles a week, and 6 weeks later, she's only running 30 miles a week. It's pretty low for a marathon, I guess, because they usually run about, most marathoners run about 100 to 200 miles a week. Elite. Okay, not average. All right. Determine her weekly mileage is for weeks 2, 3, and 4. This is doing a mean, an arithmetic mean, because you've got week 1, you've got week 6. So week 1, you've got your A sub 1 is 65. You're wanting to figure out what A sub 2 is, what A sub 3 is, what A sub 4 is. Okay, what A sub 4 is. You know A sub 5, her 5th week, went right before the marathon week, she's already down to 31 miles. So you just want to figure out the means, the 3 arithmetic means, the terms between those 2 endpoints, A sub 1 and A sub 5. So you want to find A2, A3, A4. You just need to find the common difference. So the formula is A sub n is equal to, what is it? D times n minus 1 plus A sub 1. There we go. So I need to find the common difference. Okay? I need the common difference. I've got the 5th term, so I'm going to set it equal to 31, the 5th term. And I'm going to put 5 in for n. And then my first term is 65. And then I can find the common difference. So I've got 31 is equal...
Yeah, why did you do the 5?
Question. Why do we put 5 there and 65 in the other spot? Why?
65 is the start one.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm putting that as the start. I'm setting it equal to the A sub 5 term. So that's why the 5 goes in for n. So I have D times 5 minus 1 plus A sub 1. A sub 1 is 65. A sub 5 is 31, and I put 5 in for n. So we get 4D plus 65, stop that, minus 65. What's 31 minus 65? Negative 34 is equal to 4D. Divide by 4. What does that give us? Negative 8.5. So she's decreasing her mileage about 8.5 miles per week. So she's dropping mileage about 8.5 miles a week, which is pretty typical. You don't want to do more than a 10-mile drop ever if you ever want to train for a marathon, just so you know. I would know. So subtract 65 minus 8.5. What does that give you for her 2nd week mileage? 56.5. Okay, this is about what my cross-country teams run in the fall. Is about 50 miles a week. Okay, subtract 8.5. Y'all do. Yeah, the girls are more like 40 to 45. Guys are like 45 to 50. Okay.
D-Cook's more like 75 to 80.
What if I run like 200?
Be like 20.
Yeah, because you can't handle it. 56.5 minus 8.5. My leg hurts. Okay, what is it? What's 56.5 minus 48?
Are you thirsty?
48. Shh. Okay, and then 48 minus 8.5 is what? 39.5. And then we get all the way down to 31. When I was running in college, I ran around 80 to 90, and we never dropped more than 10.
Nice flex.
Are you dropping lore? Okay, here we go. Next section, geometric. Here we go. These are confusing. Okay, arithmetic. This is the other popular one on the MCA. Okay, the other popular one on the MCA. All right, so you have arithmetic. Put your calculators down. Get your pencils in your hand. Let's go. All right. We have arithmetic, which is linear, y equals mx plus b. We have geometric, which is going to be exponential, which is actually going to be a good lead into the next chapter. Because next chapter, we're doing exponential and logarithms. Okay? Geometric. A sequence. A sequence. Okay, again, a list of numbers in a particular order. A sequence in which the ratio, which means it's going to be a fraction now, between any two consecutive, that means in a row, back to back, one right after the other, a sequence in which the ratio between any two consecutive terms is constant. And the easiest way to do this is divide you're going to take a term divided by its previous to figure out the common ratio. So if you have a list of terms in a sequence, so the simplest one that I can give you is a sequence where it's just doubling. Watch this, everybody. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. Everybody can see the common ratio is going to be 2. Now, here's how you can figure it out. I need you to listen. Everybody can see the common ratio is 2 pretty quick. It's just doubling. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, and so on. But if I take any two consecutive terms, so Gracie could take the 4 and the 8. So she could say, okay, 4 and the 8. If you go 8 divided by 4, you'll get the common ratio. What's 8 divided by 4? 2. If I do 32 divided by 16, I'll get what? 2. If I do 16 divided by 8, I'll get what? 2. If I go 4 divided by 2, I'll get what? 2. If I go 2 divided by 1, I'll get what? 2. No matter what, if you take a term divided by its previous term, everybody say, a term divided by its previous term, if that's constant, I don't need to repeat anymore. If that's constant, we call that the common ratio. So if you're looking for the pattern and you start dividing a term by the previous, 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 and it stays constant, it's what you call a geometric sequence. Geometric, circle this, is exponential. It is exponential. It's our J curve. This will lead into the next chapter after the MCAs. The common ratio is the numeric. It's the numeric ratio between any two terms. That's what we just did. Divide the term by the previous. Divide a term by the previous. And we call the variable that we use, what do we use for common difference? We use the what? A D. For common ratio, we'll use an R. We're going to use an R for common ratio. All right, let's take a look at the first 4 examples really quick. You might need your calculator out to figure out the common ratio. Some of them you won't. I want you right now with a partner to figure out the common ratio on all 4 problems. Some of them you will not need the calculator for, so don't make it hard. And then, if you would, find the next 3 terms in the sequence. So after you figure out the common ratio, figure out the next 3 terms in the sequence.
How do you do the second one? How do you do the second one?
Divide the number by the previous.
Johnny. So did you get 4 for number 2?
Yeah. No.
Don't you divide by 4?
Yeah. Divide by a quarter. Wait, no.
Yeah, you divide by 4. That gives you negative.
Huh?
You divide by negative 4. You divide by negative 4. Number 2. Because you don't times.
Why?
Fruit. Don't times. What do you mean you don't times?
What?
You don't times?
Yeah, you times. After you figure out the common ratio, it's multiplication.
Yeah.
So once you find the common ratio, to get the next 3 terms in the sequence, you multiply by that every time. Geometric is going to be repeated multiplication. Arithmetic was repeated what? Addition. Arithmetic was repeated addition. Geometric's going to be repeated multiplication.
So when we figure out like what it's going down by or going up by, how do we write that? Do we just
So
write,
common ratio for number 1 is 3.
oh, so I do R equals this?
Yep. And then the next 3 terms would be what? What were the next 3 terms for number 1? 648,
1944.
1944,
5832.
5832.
That's my phone password.
Cool.
Is that pretty wild?
Yeah, I can unlock it anyways. I don't need your password.
Oh shoot. I don't even have a password anymore.
You still have the home button?
I do still have the home button.
He told me freshman year he's getting a new phone. It's still
Hey, if it works,
Don't get rid of it.
don't get rid of it, because that's just wasting money.
It is.
Have you seen the iPhone 17? $2,500.
I get it for free.
You say that.
Why
Everybody
do you-
thinks they do, but they pay for it.
Yeah.
I don't.
All right, what is the common ratio? All right, let's go through these. Number 2, Henry, what is the common ratio?
1/4.
It's just positive 1/4?
Negative 1/4.
It is negative 1/4 for number 2.
Let's go.
That's the only way the signs are going to alternate. Because when you multiply, look at this. You got a positive times a negative gives you a what? Everybody look. Stop a second. It goes from 512 to negative 128. You can't just multiply by a fourth. You got to multiply by a. And then that makes it negative. And then the next one, when you go a negative times a negative, it'll go back to a what? A positive. And then the next one, when you go a positive times a negative, it'll go back to a what? A negative. So if your common ratio is negative, listen, if your common ratio is negative, your signs are going to what? They're going to alternate. Okay? Because you're going to keep multiplying. What are the next 3 terms? What would they be, Henry?
2,
Uh-huh.
negative 1/2,
You better math fracket. I won't reduce fractions.
and 1/8.
1/8. 2, negative 1/2, and 1/8. Math fracket.
Is the next one?
All right, what is the common ratio?
5 seconds.
5 halves.
5 seconds.
I want fractions. You divide you divide a term by its previous. So all you had to do is take you could have done negative 16 divided by negative 6.4. You can do negative 100 divided by negative 40. You can do negative 40 divided by negative 16, but you take a term divided by its previous. That's all you do.
250.
All right, so I've got negative 250, negative 625, and negative 1562.5.
Oh,
Wait, don't they want fractions?
I thought you wanted a fraction.
For the common ratio, I don't care about these.
Oh,
Like, if it gets really big, I don't care. I mean, what is the fraction? What is it?
negative 31/25/2.
That's fine, too. That's the same thing.
That is not.
Why, you don't know how to math frac?
Ooh.
Okay.
I'm stupefied. My bad.
Okay, what does R equal on this one?
Negative 2/3.
Negative 2/3. Negative 2/3. So, the next terms in the sequence? Negative 3 halves. 1. Negative 2/3. Got it? Good. All right, the formula today. We're going to do the same process, but now knowing it's geometric, the formula is going to look different. Okay, it's repeated multiplication and linear arithmetic. Okay, arithmetic, you don't have to write this down. Just watch a second. Arithmetic. Okay, I spelled arithmetic totally wrong. Somebody spell arithmetic for me.
RITHMETIC.
Thank you. Arithmetic. I don't spell. A sub n is equal to d times n minus 1 plus a sub 1. If you simplify that, your a sub n basically equals mx plus b, your linear equation. You end up with a linear equation. Now, it won't be written like that. Okay? It'll be like something d, or sorry, something n. It'll be like the variable will be n here instead of an x. And then m and b will be numbers. So it might be like 5n minus 3, but it looks like a linear equation. It's linear-like. Geometric is going to be like your exponential equation, which we're going to talk about next chapter, is a times b to the x power. All right, are you ready? We're going to write it like this, though. All right, this would have been helpful when we were doing the explicit forms. This shortcut formula is super nice when you're trying to figure out the explicit. Okay, it's going to be your start, a sub 1 times the common ratio to the n minus 1 power. If you take Calc 2, you will need to know this formula a lot. And Calculus 2. Okay?
Good thing it's the last math class, I guess.
The nth term of any no, you don't. You have 2 in college. Okay?
I'm dropping them.
If you're going to college, you have 2 math classes you have to take.
Not going. Oh wait, I need a run.
Stat.
Crookston.
You need a math still. One more, and it'll be college algebra calc.
Crookston.
Photo math about to graduate.
Okay.
Fly, Eagles fly.
Anyways, that's funny. I got 2 other colleges that talked to me.
After that, 506.
After 443, they're like, oh.
506.
Nth term of a geometric sequence can be found using the following. A sub n. All right, equals. Yes, repeat after me. A sub n
A sub n
equals
equals
A sub 1
A sub 1
times
times
R
R
to the n minus
to
1,
the n minus 1.
where A sub 1 is the
A sub 1 is the first term.
There you go. And R is the common ratio. Now, this is the explicit form. This is the cheat for the explicit form, not the recursive. The explicit form. All right, here we go. We're going to write an explicit rule. Then use it to find A sub 8. If you have this shortcut rule, you can write the equation pretty simply. All we got to do is figure out what the common ratio is and what A sub 1 is. A sub 1, that's easy. What is A sub 1 in this problem? 3. Common ratio, just divide any 2 terms that are consecutive. Take the term divided by its previous. So what's 48 divided by 12?
4.
4, that's called math.
36 is divided by 2.
All right, now the formula, it wouldn't matter which ones you do. You could do 12 divided by 3, 48 divided by 12, 192 divided by 48. They all work. Okay, but they got to be consecutive. They got to be in a row. Now, the formula is A sub n is equal to A sub 1 times R to the n minus 1 power. The reason you got to do n minus 1 power, because people say, why is it not the nth power? Because you have to, first of all, set it. Listen, let me tell you why this is the n sub 1 power. When you do the first term, when you do A sub 1, you want to just be left with A sub 1. So, for example, if A sub 1 is 23, so this formula has to work if you plug in 1. So if you plug in 1 and you say the first term is 23, I need this to equal 1. Because 23 times 1 would be what? 23. I need, whatever the first term is, I need to just have this left. Well, the only way to get that is that you have to set this back 1. Because if you plug in 1, what's 1 minus 1?
0.
What's anything to the 0 power?
1.
And that'll allow it to start at A sub 1. So that's why you go back 1 at the first. Okay? Crazy, I know. All right, so, and I'll explain it again if that didn't make sense. All right, here we go. A sub n. Ready? A sub n. What's A sub 1? Times, what's the common ratio?
4.
To the n minus 1. Now, that's it. That's your formula. Now, let me explain. Make sure you see that if I plug in A sub 1, if I plug 1 in for n, let's see if we get 3. All right, if I plug 1 in for n, what's 1 minus 1?
0.
What's anything 0 power?
0. Oh.
What's
1.
anything 0 power?
1.
What's 3 times 1? Did it work?
Yes.
It works for the first one. Will it work for the 8th one?
Yes.
Let's go to the 8th term.
What?
So if I, directions. All right. All right, here we go. Really? All right, A sub 8. By the way, this is the way you want your money to grow, is exponential. Because if I go 3 times 4 times 8 minus 1, if I start with $3, but I leave it in there for 8 years, and it's quadrupling, which you're never going to find something that quadruples, but if you could, okay, if you do, you hit the lotto. All right, it'd be 3 times 4 to the 7th power. You could take $3 and make it worth a lot.
Let's see.
Okay?
Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Come on.
So
49,000. Wow.
Exponents first.
$3 could be $49,000.
152.
Exponents first.
49,152 is the answer. Now, you're never going to find something that quadruples, but you can find something that goes up by like 12%, which is not even doubling. Okay, stocks and things like that. And if you take $100 right now, a month, and invest it in a good long-term mutual fund that gets about 10 to 12%, and you do $100 a month, starting right now, you'll be a millionaire by the time you're age 52.
Doesn't Lep's husband do that?
Is he a financial advisor? Maybe, probably. All right, next one. We got to stay focused.
1/2. Okay.
All right, the common ratio is
1/2.
1/2. It's getting cut in half every time. What's the start value, everybody?
Negative.
Negative 2,400. Shh. A sub n then would be negative 2,400 times 1/2 to the what power? N minus 1 power.
Oh, I thought we were trying to do that.
Then we'll do the 8th term. Now to find the 8th term,
It works.
it would be negative 2,400 times 1/2 to the 8 minus 1, which is 7th power, which will give me negative 18.75.
How'd you do that?
I used my noggin.
That's right. But
Wait, oh, I have,
You remember from last year.
wait, how did you get that? Oh, I have the next.
I have the answers in front of me, people.
Oh.
Number 7. All right, next one. What's the common ratio?
Oof,
Just everybody take your calculator out and take negative 7/6 divided by 7 over 36. And then math bracket, and then tell me, Callie, what is the common ratio? Tell them. It is negative 6. And if you can't do negative 6, you don't know how to do it.
I didn't. I think my thing's in degrees.
what?
That does not, that literally means nothing right now. We are not doing trig. Okay? If you're not, unless you're using sine, cosine, and tangent, that does not matter.
-7 or 3.
Negative 7 divided by 6
Yeah.
divided by 7 divided by 36. Just keep it. Now math bracket.
Oh, no. I got 1 over 260. Did you?
So many variables.
Yeah. Do I have to alpha?
If you don't, you're going to have to go 7 divided by 36 in parentheses. No. 7 divided by, you're holding everybody up. 7 divided by over 36 in parentheses divided by negative 7 over 6 in parentheses.
I got -6.
It's called user error.
Yeah.
Show your neighbor how to get it. Got it? All right, -6. So my equation would be a sub n is equal to 7 over 36 times -6 to the n minus 1. If I do a sub 8, it'll be 7 over 36 times -6 to the 7th power, which is negative 54,432.
Wow, Morris, you're him.
All right, I think we're good with that. Let's go down to the next ones. Go down to 11 and 12. This is where I want to do something with it. If you didn't pick up on that, that's your fault. Practice tonight. All right, here we go. Use the information to find the indicated value. All right, if a sub 1 is equal to 240 and r is equal to -2, is this easy enough to do? All right, use that information to find a sub 6. Give you 30 seconds. Go.
Wait, I have to write down the formula.
30 seconds is plenty of time.
I got it. I didn't know you even alpha x.
Did we write down the formula?
No, you got to make a formula and find a sub 6.
Okay.
Does the calculator do pandas?
Yes.
Oh. Oh. I don't think mine did PEM does.
What'd you get?
I got an E.
I got negative 7,680.
Yes.
Oh my god, I'm freaking dumb. I put the formula.
All right.
The ace of 1 in the wrong spot.
All right, here we go. Now, little trick here. The next problem, you need to pay attention. I've got a sub 2 is equal to -8. They give you the common ratio as 4. You want to find a sub 10. If you want to write the original equation for a geometric sequence, you have to know the a sub 1 times r to the n minus 1 power. The problem is I don't have a sub 1, I have a sub 2, but I do know the common ratio. It's multiplied by 4. So if you wanted to go backwards, what would you do? Divide by 4. So if you know the second term is negative 8, what would the first term be?
-2.
Negative 2.
What? The combination?
Common ratio is 4.
Oh, okay.
So you multiply by 4 when you're going forwards. To go backwards, you'd have to divide by 4. So your first term is negative 2, so you'd have a sub n is equal to negative 2 times 4 to the n minus 1. Now you could figure out the 10th term. So you'd have negative 2 times 4 to the 9th power, and what do we get?
2040. Whoa. 2048. I got
10?
I got negative 524,288.
Yep. 524,288.
I got negative 2 times 4 to the 9th power.
I keep putting it in the wrong spot.
I know. If you don't got, if you got,
Try the next one on your own. Go.
So a sub 1.
Always goes out front.
Okay.
just do the power first.
So I did it.
Divide that.
I did it wrong both times.
Go. Try the next one. That's when you have to work for a little bit more. You got to find the first term. You know the common ratio.
The first term. Yeah, Henry, did you get any? Oh my gosh. Is it 4?
The first term is 4.
Okay, then I went to the 0. Okay, so it is 4. I counted wrong.
The first term would be 4.
Let's go. You give me this one.
Okay, now the easiest way to do it is just to, if you say you've got the 5th term and you want to go back to the first term, you could say a sub n is equal to a sub 1 times 1/2 to the n minus 1. Now watch this. Listen up, my peeps. And if you have the 5th term, you could set it equal. What you could do is you could do like we did with an arithmetic sequence. You could set it equal to the 5th term. So you could set it equal to 1/4. Plug in 5 for n, which would give you 5 minus 1, which is 4. And you could divide by 1/2 to the 4th power, which 1/2 to the 4th power. What is 1/2 to the 4th power? 1 what? 1/16. So if you take the other side and you divide it, so if you go 1/4 divided by 1/16, that'll give you a sub 1.
Did you get 1 over
Okay?
6?
And whenever you take 1/4, listen, whenever you take 1/4 divided by a fraction, you multiply by the what? So you end up with 1/4 times 16, which is just 4. So that's why a sub 1 is going to be equal to 4.
Oh, I just kept dividing and I went.
You could, okay, since r is 1/2, when you go forward, you multiply by half. But if you go backwards, you got to divide by half. How do you divide by half? You really multiply by what? So you could just multiply by 2 in reverse 4 times.
Yeah, I was kind of catching on when it
Okay.
hit 1, 2.
So my equation then is a sub n, guys got it, is equal to 4 times 1/2 to the n minus 1 power. Then if you want to find the 11th term would be 4 times 1/2 to the 10th power, which would be end up being 1 over 256, I believe.
Let's go.
All right, is that okay? All right, same kind of idea. Let's do number 15. We'll skip 14. They're all kind of the same. Now this one, I give you the first term, I give you the 6th term. I want you to find the 12th, but on this one, I do not give you the common ratio. I do not give you the common ratio. Start with this. You know it's a geometric sequence because it said that in the directions. So you know a sub n is equal to a sub 1 times r to the n minus 1. They give you the first term, they give you the sixth term. Use that to find the common ratio. Use that to find the common ratio.
Oh.
Would R just be nothing at that?
Nope, R's definitely going to be something.
Would it just be 5? Or
Huh?
times- Would it just be 5?
No,
You do 6 minus 1.
that's to the fifth power.
Yeah, so R. So it'd be
You're going to have to do a root here, people.
What?
What?
I think you're going to have to do a fifth root.
Oh, there we go. A fifth.
Or you can just do to the 1/5 power, because that's what a fifth root is.
Nah, I'll do the
You
root.
should have learned in breakout A for sure. All right, here's what I got. I know A sub 1. Watch this. Watch how I do this. Listen up. Shh. This is 2. Does everybody agree?
Yes.
We don't know the common ratio, but we do know the sixth term. So I could plug 6 in and set it equal to what?
486.
Do you see what I did there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I set it up.
All right, now divide both sides by 2. So you get 243 because you got to divide by 2. R to the fifth power. If you want to get rid of the fifth power, you do the fifth root. Math 5. Math 5 works. Everybody math 5. Everybody press math 5, please. And you could do the fifth root of each side.
Oh.
So R equals 3. Now, here's what I want you to know. The fifth root, you should have learned this in pre-calc A. The fifth root is really 243 to the 1/5 power. Type in 243 to the 1/5 power. Please do it with me. Type in 243 to the 1/5 power. Same thing. You should have learned that in pre-calc A. That's unfortunate because you should have.
Oh. I learned this in pre-calc.
Yeah, you should have. Now, do we have the common ratio? Don't worry, I'll review it next chapter. You should have learned that the square root, like if you have the square root of a number, it's really b to the 1/2. If you have the cube root of b, it's b to the 1/3. Watch this. If you have the fourth root of b, it's b to the what? 1/4. If you have the fifth root of b, it's b to the what? B to the 1/5. Yes, the root. Now watch this. If you have the cube root of b to the 4th, it's b to the 4/3. It's b to the 4/3. If you have the square root of b to the 3rd,
So the one on the inside is always on the top. And
the one on, it's called a power tap. I call it flower power, and the roots grow in the ground.
What if it's the 7th root of b to the 6th
I'm like,
The 7th root,
of b
this is on the ACT.
to the 6th?
B to the, watch this, B to the 6th, 7th. Here's what I teach. I teach it. Flowers are powers because flowers grow above ground and roots grow in the ground.
The ground?
The ground. And the ground is the fraction bar. Roots grow below the ground. Flowers grow above ground. Flowers are powers, roots are in the ground.
Okay.
Yep.
Making sense.
Yep.
No.
So if I have the 7th root of b to the 4th, it'd be b to the 4/7.
Oh, 4/7.
The root goes in the ground, the power's the flower. All right, anyways. So R equals 3. The common ratio, that's 3. So now we got the common ratio. So we have a sub n is equal to a sub 1, which is 2, times 3 to the n minus 1. Now it's easy to find the 12th one. The 12th one would be 2 times 3 to the 11th, which is stupid big. It's 354,000, not 294.
Yep.
All right, let's go to recursive and explicit.
Oh, no.
Well, explicit's easy because you have a formula. So I'm going to do 17 with you. So let's start with explicit. Do you know the first term? 2. Do we know the common ratio? Yeah, it looks like it's getting multiplied by something every time. -5. So the explicit form is just a sub n is equal to a sub 1 times r to the n minus 1 power. So we've got a sub n is equal to 2 times, what was the common ratio? Negative 5 to the n minus 1 power. You can use the formula for the explicit. Now, recursive on the MCA for geometric, or when it's repeated multiplication. First of all, write down your start. Recursion, you always have to have a start. And then you want to do, you got to be able to take a term and rewrite it in terms of its previous. In other words, you need to use the previous to calculate the next one. So how do you calculate the next one?
A3 divided by
A sub n is equal to,
A sub n minus 1 times negative.
it's negative 5 times the previous. That's it.
I have a question.
That's it. That's all you do.
Do you set up recursion as explicit different than you would
don't
on
get
the
it.
other version, like the this is G?
The other one, where it was the common difference, you do plus because it's repeated addition. Geometric, it's times. So recursive is times when it's geometric. For arithmetic, it's plus. You just add the next one to the previous for arithmetic. For geometric, you multiply by the previous. Yeah, you're supposed to technically put n is greater than or equal to 2, but I don't care about that part. Next one, write the explicit and recursion. Recursive for this one, go.
Oh, no.
Yeah, 1/2.
Are you sure?
Are you sure?
I've got the a sub 1 is negative 4/3. To figure out the common ratio, all I have to do is take two consecutive terms and take a term divided by its previous. So I could take negative 1/3 divided by negative 2/3. I could have done negative 1/6 divided by negative 1/3, or I could have done negative 2/3 divided by negative 4/3. Common ratio is going to end up being positive, and I believe it is 1/2. Is that correct? So my a sub n would be equal to negative 4/3 times 1/2 to the n minus 1.
Can I do the recursive?
You would like to do the recursive? You can. Go ahead.
AN equals 1/2 times AN minus 1.
And then you got one more thing you got to put.
And then the,
Comma.
A1 equals negative 14.
That's it. That's the recursive.
Wait, why did you do that comment?
Because you always got to have a start.
Okay.
You always have to put your start for recursive.
So,
All right, last thing. Geometric means. It's the same thing as arithmetics means. It's the terms what? The terms what? The terms in between. The terms between any two non-consecutive terms in a geometric sequence. Now, what's really cool is when you get into like Calc 2, you actually take these sequences and you figure out what they add up to if you add up all the terms, but you let the terms go to infinity.
that doesn't sound very fun.
Oh, it's really cool because it's crazy to realize that these do not go to infinity, all of them. Some of them actually approach specific numbers. And some of them actually go towards very special numbers. There's one. Did you know that if you take all the counting numbers, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9. Does anybody, what do you think that equals?
Probably Google Play.
1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. What do you think that equals?
Google Play.
256.
15.
You do? Henry
A
knows
little
it.
more than 10. 256.
It's negative 1/12.
1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5.
If you go to infinity, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus forever, it actually ends up equaling negative 1/12.
How?
Who figured
That's
that out?
crazy.
How would
How
it
is
be
it negative?
negative?
I know, it's crazy. I'll show you the bit. There's a video for it.
Days
And it shows up everywhere in nature.
Bro, how did you know that?
That's I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
That's gotta be.
Wait, explain.
That's gotta be.
I can't right now, but I can show you a video on it later. All right, maybe I'll show it Thursday after MCA since we're going to have a light day. All right, here we go. Let's go geometric. Given a sequence 1, 3, 9, 27, 81, 243, everybody can see this one's multiplied by what? 3. The geometric means between 3 and 243 are 9, 27, and 81. The terms in between. Find the indicated geometric means for each set of non-consecutive terms. So we've got a negative 4, and how many means do they want? 1, 2, 3. So here's what we do. First of all, you need to find the common ratio. So I'm going to use my formula for a geometric sequence. It's a sub n is equal to a sub 1 times r to the what?
N minus 1.
All right, do we have the first term in the sequence?
Yes.
What's the first term in the sequence?
-4.
All right, so we got negative 4. We do not have the common ratio. Do we have another term in the sequence, though? Which term do we have?
Fifth term.
The fifth term. So what do we plug in for n?
5.
-2.
This is the fifth term, right?
5.
So we're going to put a 5 in for n. What do we set it equal to then?
2500.
Negative 2,500. Divide by negative 4. What's negative 2,500 divided by negative 4? Help me out here. 625
Right.
is equal to r to the fourth power. How can I do r to the fourth power?
Root 4.
I can do math 5, or I can do it to the 1/4 power. I actually like doing it to the 1/4 power. So r equals what?
5.
By the way, do you see why 1/4 power works? Look up here. Look up here. Do you see why raising it both sides of 1? Because
What's in the ground?
power towers, those cancel. The 4 and the 1/4 cancel.
Oh.
That's why the fourth root gets rid of the fourth power. All right, r equals 5, but you could just do the fourth root if you wanted to. So now we've got a sub n is equal to, what was our start? Negative 4 times 5 to the what? So what was the common ratio? What's the common ratio?
You could just multiply by
What's the common ratio? What's the common ratio?
5.
So what can you do?
Multiply by 5.
Multiply by 5. That'll be negative 20.
100. Negative.
That'll be negative 100.
Negative 500.
Negative 500. Do you see how to do that?
Yes.
All right, let's do your homework tonight. I'm going to give you time. What page is the next two pages?
13 and 14.
Page 13 and 14, do the odds. Go ahead, get started. You can go up to the office.
Check that out.
That's totally fine.